Hi there. Today we're going to rebuild a project. I have this pink pearl comb that I made years ago. When I made it with sterling silver wire that I believe is about 20 gauge. Sterling silver is wonderful and I love it, but it does tarnish. And tucked in and around these pearls in this way, it's hard to get in there and polish that silver without gooing up the rest of the comb. Now I currently use 24 gauge wire, which is a little bit finer, and it comes in colors. So today I'm going to remove these pearls and put them back on this comb, essentially remake the comb using 24 gauge pink wire. Let's get started. I typically make combs in the 35, 40, 70, and 82 millimeter sizes. This one happens to be an 82 millimeter, the one I call large. I think I got the pearls on sale in a lot. These particular ones are pretty, but not necessarily the highest grade. I think they're probably about a C or D grade, and you could tell that a little bit more in the way they took the color somewhat unevenly. Some of them are really pretty, and some of them are pretty rough. There's a little bit of variation in the color anyway. So I'm going to start by cutting a piece of wire to have ready once I remove the pearls from the comb. And as I mentioned, I currently use 24 gauge wire, which I like a lot because it's thin enough to not be obtrusive, thin enough to go through the hole of just about any bead that I'd want to string on it, and yet sturdy enough that it doesn't break when I pull on it, which I have experienced with some finer gauged wires. Those thin gauge wires are amazing for being nearly invisible, but I sure have broken them in the middle of a project, and that's exasperating. So 24 gauge is what I look for, and most of the wire that I use, well, I guess all of it really, has a copper core and is either anodized or coated. And you can usually find perfectly suitable wire in your hobby and craft stores like Joann's, Michael's, or Hobby Lobby, but if you're going to do much of this, you're going to want to get hooked up with a supplier, and I usually like either the zebra wire from Fire Mountain Gems or some of the colored wires from Parawire. I just remembered that Fire Mountain also offers anodized niobium wire, but I haven't tried any of those yet. Anyway, to get started, once I've got the new wire that I'm going to use on standby, we'll start by removing the beads and the old wire from the comb, and I'll do that by snipping the wire somewhere along the project, in this case at the end of the comb. This heavier gauge wire is pretty stiff, so I want to straighten it out as much as I can in order to pull the beads off. In this instance, I want to take the beads off the old thick wire, put them right on the new thinner wire. In some instances, the holes in the beads were just barely big enough for that thicker wire and actually prove a bit of a challenge in removing them, but I am successful, as you can see. The combs I use, by the way, are Grip Tooth brand, which are designed and made right here in the United States. In fact, they are also handcrafted. As they come out of the mold, they're hand-shaped to that gentle arc, trimmed carefully to uniform lengths. They're not cheap, but they're absolutely the best quality combs I've found, and I'm grateful to be able to get them to build my designs on. Also, they're wonderful people that run that company, the Pepins. Lovely, thoughtful people. So as I remove the pearls from the old wire, I'm stringing them onto the new wire, and I'll continue this until they're all transferred. And then I'll remove the remaining old wire from the comb and give it a bit of an inspection. Now when I get ready to put it back together, I'll hold the ends of the wire together and allow the beads to come to the center, the approximate center of the wire. I'll lay the beads on the work surface and lay the comb on top of the beads. Now this next part can be a little fiddly. Pick the whole thing up, wrap the wire around that last tooth of the comb. Wrap the wire around and between the teeth, between the beads. We'll do this a couple times, and then we'll attend to the other end of the beads, securing them to the comb. And here's where I really appreciate that 24 gauge wire, sturdy enough to hold well, but thin enough to be unobtrusive. Once you've got them all strapped down good, you can feed the ends of the wire up underneath between the beads and the comb. And you want to make a gentle curve in your wire. You might be able to do that by running it through your fingers with more pressure on one side than the other, or you might need a tool, but you want a very gentle hook on the end of your wire. And we're going to use that hook to kind of coil around and tie off the ends of the wire. I don't really know of a graceful way to describe this with words. But I like to make about 3 coils in this tie-off process, and then take the flesh cutters and trim that wire off as close as you can, being careful not to accidentally cut any of the other wires. Rub your finger along there now to make sure you don't have any pokey parts sticking out. If you see or feel the slightest little bit of cut wire sticking out, you'll want to be sure to tuck that in so that it doesn't scratch anybody. And voila! We have successfully rebuilt this comb. Let me quickly show you one way that I wear them. Now, once you've done this a few times, you can easily do it entirely without a mirror, just like I'm doing it right now. This way of wearing it, I'll pull part of my hair back as if I were going to make half a ponytail, and set the comb's teeth in place to hold it instead of using a rubber band or a hairband. Notice that the teeth of the comb are facing upward or up, pointing towards the roots of the hair rather than the ends. I usually like to hold the portion of the hair that would be the ends of the hair while I push the comb away from where I'm holding it, so that it's firmly in place. It is firmly in place. It's going to stay right there until I take it out. Seems counterintuitive, but that is the way it works best. Let's watch that again. Alrighty, thanks for coming along on this journey with me. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time.